Yeah, let me put my hair up and pop the hood for me,
Let
Sammy.
me pop the...
And I'm going to pop it back.
What do you say? What do you say?
Oh, my God. What? He's Jazz is Megatron?
Michael fucking Bay.
Michael fucking Bay.
Explosions.
Yeah. Welcome, guys, to the 4th episode of the Film Informers podcast. Big apology for us not making it last week. We were preparing for Hurricane Francine, which ended up just being like some rain, but it's Louisiana and people freak out when hurricanes are coming, Jordan, right? It's crazy.
Every single time. First of all, I missed you guys. How are you doing today? But no, every time. Every single time. And I remember like going to the dollar store the day before it passed, and it was just white walls, just empty shelves.
Yep.
For nothing. For a whole lot of nothing. Strong winds and drizzle.
Get the bread. Get the milk.
Get the bread.
Get the gas.
On the floor. Get on the floor. Get on the floor of the Dollar General and crawl.
I've never had to wait in line for like 20 minutes to get gas before.
Dude.
And there was people filling up like 8 things of gas, like those, the gas holders.
I saw a guy like on his entire back of the truck. I mean, he had like at least 5 like cans.
It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
And it was nothing. It was like rain.
I cut the grass.
You could really?
Okay. Though you know what? That's a lie.
I was gonna say
I cut the grass.
That seems reckless.
The day before I cut the grass.
Okay.
No, yeah,
okay.
But it really was just drizzle and rain, and winds, strong winds. That's like all it was.
Our lights flickered one time, and that was it. We had electricity all night.
Yeah, it wasn't a big thing, but don't want to take that away. I know there was other areas impacted, so I hope
Right. True. If Francine hurt you,
it did, and because it was a cat too. Thoughts and prayers. It just we're talking Lafayette in particular went absolutely bananas preparing for it, and we got nothing out of it. That's the only reason we're making. So
that's a good point. I'm so inconsiderate. Just like thinking about us and not the effects on.
No, it's okay because I was thinking that too, and then I just had the thought. I was just like, oh, it was a category 2. Like I had just.
It wasn't not that serious everywhere. So thoughts and prayers. We've definitely been hit with some bad hurricanes. We know what it's like. So
for sure, it's not fun.
Thoughts and prayers, guys.
Absolutely.
So Jordan, what have you been watching the past 2 weeks?
2 weeks. Well, a lot of football. You already know that.
Yep.
Shout out to my Saints. 2-0, baby. Had to bring.
Oh, 2-0.
The hoodie. 2-0, and we smacked the shit out of the Cowboys Sunday. It was beautiful. It was beautiful.
Let's go sports balls.
Woo. Sports balls. New Orleans Saints sports Super Bowl at February. But other than that, I have been preparing for Transformers 1. And we've been watching the Transformers movies.
Yeah,
that's pretty much all I've been watching.
Michael
Baying it up, and those movies are Michael Bay personified. Like if you are a fan of Michael Bay, watching them all back to back, I can see why you love those movies. I really can. And I do have for the first 3. I told you, I have a special place in my heart for the first 3. Even Revenge of the Fallen, which I don't think is it all good.
Just one series, or is there like a name for the Shia LaBeoufs versus the Mark Wahlbergs?
No, there's no specific name.
It's all just, is it the same storyline throughout all of them?
I wouldn't.
Does it kind of switch gears?
It switched gears. Like I would say for the Autobots stay. Like Optimus Prime stays, Bumblebee stays. I won't spoil it just in case. But Autobots like Ratchet that you meet in the first one, they stay. For them, it's more progression of like what happens to the Transformers, like the humans,
the bots themselves,
and the relationship with the humans and the government. But overall, there's not really a lot of connective tissue.
Gotcha.
There. So yeah, that's what I've been watching. Just a whole lot of Bay Transformers. I enjoyed most of my time with it, and a little bit of New Girl. Splash of New Girl. I'm on season 6. Love that show. But
love it.
Joshua, what about you? What have you been watching?
Yeah, I've been watching a lot of TV shows. So Lost, we're still in that. We started season 2. Phenomenal.
I need to see it, man.
I could talk so long about Lost, but I don't want to turn this into another Lost podcast. So no, definitely watch it, guys. It's amazing. Season 2 gets even better. Phenomenal. I've also been watching New Girl. We're actually like basically watching it at the same time.
But it's kind of embarrassing because I started it months ago and you caught up to me.
I did. I caught up pretty quick. And then with that, I've also been watching Rome on HBO. Still love it. So kind of the same stuff, I've just been really enjoying.
Just continuing.
I've had a few movies on the back burner that I just was not able to get to. I had a really busy week. But One-Eyed Jacks, Marlon Brando's. I have it on Criterion. It's a movie I've never seen, and I just happened to pick it up in a collection of Blu-rays I bought. And so that and a few others that I've wanted to watch have just not have got there. But when you told me you were watching Transformers, I was like, all right, I'm going to do this too. And I did sit down and watch the first one, which I did not love.
And then you were like, you know what? One is good.
Yeah. I was like, I think I'm going to stop here. But yeah, we could definitely talk about that, man. I do really appreciate Shia LaBeouf's performance in the original Transformers. He definitely, his charisma was like the most entertaining thing for me until the last act. And then when you get those crazy Transformers Autobots battles, it's like, let's fucking go, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
It's awesome. You know, when Michael Bay's doing his thing, he's cooking, bro. You know,
for sure.
He cooks, but I just don't feel like he knows how to do really anything else.
Besides cook with gorgeous action.
Yeah, with gorgeous CGI action. I really didn't like going into the film with the government side of things, like I really tried to make it a post-Iraq war America meets Transformers.
Yeah.
You know, like I was like, did that have to be like that? Like, I don't know. Like, I did not buy into the government part of the film, which ends up being like a good half of it, I feel like.
It's a good chunk of it. It's a good chunk of it because you have different pockets of characters. Like you have Shia LaBeouf and Michaela, and then you have the Autobots, and then you have Josh Duhamel and Tyrese Gibson's military characters.
The Soldier Boys.
Soldier Boys.
Like the GI. There's like almost like GI Joes as main characters.
For sure. And then you have the very over the top but appreciated over the top John Voight as well. We needed to find out who did this.
The Secretary of Defense.
We need to crack the code.
And he was not like, I like him, but I just did not appreciate that whole side of the film. I just feel like it kind of dived into a seriousness that it didn't need to have. And I know you said you have different opinions on that.
Yeah, so that's why I love just movies and just art, because like I didn't take it as serious. I thought it was like a political satire of everything about the post-Iraq war and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's how I took it, and I didn't think, especially the shot where like the flight attendant goes in and you have the shot of George Bush's feet and he's just like, can you give me some more ding dong darling, ding dong, and it's just like little stuff like that. It came off to me as this like a more of like not taking itself seriously and having fun with or making it a political satire.
Okay.
But I could definitely see if it doesn't hit you like that.
Yeah,
it's generic. It comes off generic as shit.
It does,
and I get that.
Okay, I agree with you. They probably were going for a satire, but I don't think it was done very well.
Hey,
like,
I can understand.
I got a lot of laughs at the film. I wrote down some quotes in here for sure, but it was mostly from like Sam's characters and then the other guys.
What would Jesus do?
What would Jesus do?
I love that.
Trying to sell. As an eBay seller myself, I found it hilarious that the main plot used in to develop the main plot in this film was an eBay
item,
an eBay listing from Ladies Man 217.
Are you Ladies Man 217?
Are you Ladies Man 217? Yeah, and he's like, yes. But yeah, I appreciated the relationship between him and Michaela, and I hated that they kind of left that off the screen. Like they kind of like there's the scene when he first picks her up in her car or his car, right, and drives her home. It skips the drive home, and then when he gets home, they kind of move on as if they just had a heartfelt conversation. They got to know each other, and she's like, "It was really nice talking to you tonight," but we didn't see any of that, and I was like, "Why did they cut out the heartfelt character development?" That's what we need. That's what this movie's missing.
Bro, the camera just laying on Megan Fox's body, that's character development, bro. That is Bay's character development.
Michael fucking Bay.
But no, and on top of it, and we kind of talked about this like before we saw Transformers 1, how not only did they not have a heartfelt conversation, but like her just randomly like, oh, your car is driving itself and changing the channel by itself. Let me check the hood.
Yeah, let me put my hair up and pop the hood for me,
Let
Sammy.
me pop the hood.
And I'm going to pop it back.
What do you say? What do you say? Oh my God. What he tells her, he was like, oh, I like women working on my engines. I prefer it, actually.
Yeah.
I actually like that line, though. I do like.
Sam's kind of smooth. I'm going to give him that.
He is kind of smooth. He's even smooth in Dark of the Moon with a new love interest. I think that's all Shia LaBeouf's chops. Like that's just Shia LaBeouf's charisma shining through and through there.
Yeah.
And that does not end in Revenge of the Fallen and Dark of the Moon. And not to jump everywhere, but I think it severely lacked that in Age of Extinction and The Last Night.
Yeah,
I enjoyed Mark Wahlberg in those movies.
Wahlberg ones.
Which are the Wahlberg ones?
I don't know if I've ever seen those.
Don't ever do it.
Yeah,
I never do it. Especially since you don't like the first one. Absolutely don't do it.
No, I won't. I won't waste I don't have enough time for that.
No, if you've never seen them and you like Michael Bay like a lot, watch them. But I just did. I'm not kidding. Like I took Advil relief after Last Night yesterday. Yeah. It was bad.
So I know you said you had ranked. You had ranked the OG Transformers movies.
I did.
Michael Bay.
Fucking Michael Bay.
But I cannot relate because I've seen the first three. I did watch those growing up, and then I think by the time the fourth one came out, which is Age of Extinction, I was already like out of it. You know, like I think that was. What year was that? You know,
Age of Extinction was 2014.
2014.
And the Last Night was 2017, which is the last of the Michael Bay movies.
Yeah, so I was like getting ready to graduate high school at that point, and I was already kind of out of that phase. You know, I feel like Transformers was really marketed towards middle schoolers, like ultimately.
Middle schoolers like getting into like high school. I think is the perfect sweet spot.
That like 13. 14 years old, 12 years old.
Which would explain Revenge of the Fallen at the time when I was 14 being like, I thought it was just the best movie ever.
Freaking awesome.
But besides The Dark Knight, it was like my favorite movie. I swear.
Yeah. But yeah, let me know. I'm curious what your rankings are and hear this.
Okay, so this is not only the OG Transformers movies. Now, I didn't get to rewatch these, but I did watch them last year, so I have a fresh memory of both of them.
Okay.
And so Bumblebee, which is directed by Travis Knight, who did Kubo and the Two Strings, which is also a good movie.
Okay.
And Bumblebee's, I'll talk about Bumblebee, but I really like that movie.
Okay.
And Transformers Rise of the Beast. That came out last year, and that was a Michael Bay Transformers movie without any of the Michael Bay style.
Really?
So I will get into that, yes. So those two movies are included.
Okay.
So kicking off before I kick off, are we including Transformers 1 in this? I know we haven't talked about, but we saw Transformers 1 tonight.
Why not?
Okay.
It's produced by fucking Michael Bay.
Fucking Michael Bay. It should just be like his name, like his name in the
which we are getting into, guys. Of course, Transformers 1, that is really the real meat of this episode, and we're going to get into that after this.
Absolutely. So kicking off my list is Transformers The Last Night. I mispronounced it, and I should have just kept mispronouncing it. I watched it last night. So Age of Extinction was so bad back in the day that I allowed myself to miss this one back in 2017.
Yeah.
Should have kept it that way because this was...
So this is lowest on the list?
Oh, lowest on the list.
Yeah.
I gave it a 1 star. It is fucking atrocious. Like, it opens and it's a Goonies movie, and then it goes into...
Goonies movie?
No, so it opens with King Arthur and Merlin, and Stanley Tucci as Merlin, like belching off on a horse and just making the worst kind of jokes you can possibly make.
What?
Yeah, and then it goes for they ran out. There's no ideas. There's no creativity at all. And then that kind of stuff retcons so much about what you just watched in the previous Transformers movies, especially since watching them all back to back. I'm like, this was never going to be a thing. This was never supposed to be a thing. But then, it goes from Merlin and King Arthur to a Goonies movie to Mark Wahlberg babysitting junkyard of Autobots and just babysitting Dinobots. It's really all over the place. There's no focus at all.
Okay.
And the plot is they're after a staff. That's the plot. And the worst part, the most egregious worst part of it is Optimus fucking Prime is in like 5 minutes of the movie.
What?
The best character in all the Transformers movies is... I was so mad. I was like, why didn't nobody tell me this when this movie came out? He was in it for 5 minutes, and he was like a bad... I don't want to spoil it, but he was like a bad guy. Like they kind of like mind wipe him, and it was just not great.
I'm done with this movie already, bro. I'm turning this off in my brain. This sounds so bad.
It's truly atrocious. And then not far ahead of it, but it is better. Transformers: Age of Extinction, which is another Marky Mark.
So, man, poor Marky Mark. He got the butt of that.
He really did, because he got such a lame character, and it sucks because you can tell that he really did try. And he has some good moments in both of them. You know,
I'm sure his paycheck was pretty nice.
I'm sure it was very, very, very nice.
Yeah, not the residuals. But, No,
I wouldn't say that. But he has a really good line of Age of Extinction where he's like, hey, and like towards the end of the film, he's like, hey, sweetie, can you hand me my alien space gun? Like he has that was a
good Marky Mark.
Thank you. He has like lines like that, but it's so every flaw that I have with Michael Bay is just it's 240 of that. It's almost 3 hours of that.
Oh,
like I wrote in my Letterboxd review, it really felt like he was just slow jerking at the whole movie.
Oh my god!
Like bad humor, just countless CGI, terrible voiceover over Transformers. I mean, everything bad about the movies were in that.
Come on, Bay.
Come on, man. And it's so off camera stuff aside, I am a TJ Miller fan on camera. I like him as a performer. He somehow made me dislike TJ Miller on screen. So I will never.
Not TJ.
Yeah, bro.
What
He's just such an unlikable character. And I
off point here. I watched She's Out of My League for the first time
recently.
I
love that movie.
I forgot to mention that earlier because it kind of just happened late night randomly. We weren't even planning to watch a movie, but anyway, that movie was hilarious.
It is. I love that movie.
Anyway, TJ's great in it. And,
yes, he is.
Anyway,
that was my first exposure to TJ Miller, though. So
that makes sense.
That's
an old movie.
I am with you on that.
Yeah.
And one more thing about Age of Extinction, the product placement. Holy shit! Like, there's literally a scene where a Transformer hits like a big truck, and there's Bud Light cans everywhere, and like the camera is just like zooming on the ground with full of Bud Light cans, and then Mark Wahlberg is like, "Hey, what do you think you're doing?" And then he picks up the Bud Light can, he opens it off a car door and just like takes a big fucking swig.
Oh my god, that is amazing! I love that. Holy shit!
It was just a lot of that, and it lasted way too. The last act lasted like a fucking hour long. But anyway, that's Age of Extinction. Not too far ahead of that is Rise of the Beast, the newest one post Michael Bay that came out last year.
Yeah.
Kind of what I alluded to at the beginning of this conversation. Rise of the Beast was not awful. Like, it was competently put together. There's some good action scenes in it. There's a really cool death in it that actually kind of got me in the feels. But then it was retconned later on. It has moments, but the biggest problem is that it went for the Michael Bay formula again, which Bumblebee does not do, and I'll touch on that. It was a Michael Bay formula without Michael Bay style. It was a Michael Bay movie that I will quote a TikToker that I like, lacking the Michael Bay je ne sais quoi. Yeah, the lacking the Michael Bay
stuff that makes those movies bearable.
Pretty much accurate. So I didn't really care for that movie too much. Ahead of that, now we're getting into the territory where my childhood plays a big part here. Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen. The second one,
yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
I can totally see, upon a rewatch, I know why this movie's panned. I know why it has like a 20-something%, 30% on Rotten Tomatoes. I get it.
Before we talked about this, I did not even realize that was a thing. Because like when I watched those as like middle schooler, I fucking liked them.
Oh, same.
So until recently, until this week, I've not thought about the fact that 2 was ever panned like that. Totally oblivious to that as a kid, obviously.
It was absolutely panned, and you can see it's quite poor. Like, there's hardly any story. They basically have to, like, because they destroyed the R-Spark in the first one, but they wanted to make a sequel, they kind of just had to, like, well, the R-Spark doesn't really matter. It's all about these symbols that are in Sam Witwicky's head.
They had to just kind of wing it.
They kind of just had to wing it.
Yeah.
But the action is, I would argue, the best in the series out of any of the Michael Bay movies. I really would. The Egyptian scene at the end, it does last like an hour long, and it feels over bloated because it is. But the action is phenomenal. Like, it really is. And Optimus Prime 1v3ing Megatron, Starscream, and that third Decepticon in the forest was the coolest shit that 14-year-old Jordan ever saw. And even as 29-year-old Jordan, that shit's awesome.
Yeah.
And that sucked me.
Anytime Prime's 1v4ing anybody,
I'll take you all on.
Michael fucking Bay.
Oh, dude, I loved it. So above Revenge of the Fallen, now we're getting into the movies that I actually like. I just flat out like. Dark of the Moon, which is the third and final Shia LaBeouf movie, minus Megan Fox. I don't know if you remember that, but Michaela is not in it.
That was heartbreaking as a kid.
Oh yeah, and it's just as heartbreaking because it does not make any sense. Like,
I mean, I feel like the crush on Megan Fox was a big part of my like for the movie as a kid. Why did she not?
She got fired, and I don't know. She got fired, Bob, and I don't know exactly why. But they should have just not gave him another love story, or at least tried better. Because Michaela is not even. She's mentioned one time in a passing by an Autobot. It's just like, we don't like her. She was mean. Other than that, yes, it's overlong. Yes, the comedy actually hits more than not in Dark of the Moon. The destruction of Chicago at the end is some of the coolest shit ever put to screen, and I still stand by that to this day. I mean, dude, you got military people like flying in on squirrel suits, like basically like the Tanuki suits. From Mario, and just zooming in and out of buildings and shit, and like you got Shia LaBeouf and Tyrese Gibson and military people like sliding down a falling building that is like toppling over, and then they're shooting the glass to like fall in. It's some really, really cool action, and I very much enjoy it, and it has heavy conspiracy vibes that actually work.
Okay.
And it actually works. So yeah, but again, if you don't like the previous Transformers movies, you won't like this one. But this is, I think, out of the Michael Bay movies, even though the nostalgia probably has elevates the first one above it, I think Dark of the Moon is like their tightest package.
Okay.
Yeah, with the best comedy, and I think it's by like overall their best movie.
Okay.
Above that is Bumblebee. Is the aforementioned Bumblebee. Yeah, so this is actually a very different vibe. I don't know if you knew that, but this is not a...
Went over my radar, to be honest.
So Bumblebee is not a straight up, like, there's action in it. I'm not trying to say that there's not, but this is a lighthearted friendship coming-of-age story between Bumblebee and Haley Steinfeld.
Okay.
That's pretty much what it is, and it is very sweet. I love Haley Steinfeld in this movie. I mean, when is Haley Steinfeld not great?
Right, nah, she's adorable.
She's adorable, and her and Bumblebee's relationship is truly like, it's great. It is fantastic. John Cena's really good in it as a military guy who kind of like switches sides at the end. But it's very well directed, and when the action is there, it's great.
Yeah.
But it focuses on character first rather than the action stuff. So. And Bumblebee's just got good vibes. Yeah, it's just a really, really, really good watch and enjoyable.
I might need to check it out.
You might like it, honestly, more than the other ones. But at number 2, because it's not number 1 anymore, we'll get into that. But Transformers, the first one.
Yeah. So you still rank it over Dark of the Moon, but you say Dark as Moon is better.
Yeah, I do think. Yeah, I know. Okay. I know that sounds kind of weird, but the first Transformers movie, just like, I really like the political satire stuff of it that we kind of touched on already.
Okay.
And I have, it's shorter, so it's an easier watch. But I think, like, all the baggage aside, I think Dark of the Moon is just like a tightly. But I prefer to watch Transformers 1, if that makes sense. If that makes any sense.
I feel like first film in a franchise that has that entry effect, nostalgia value.
Oh yeah, because like I know you had kind of touched on it, but growing up, the Transformers movies were like a big part of my life. Yeah. Like I watched them a lot, and it's one of the reasons I got into like one of the first sagas that I watched when getting into movies. So, but we spent a lot of time talking about the first one already. So, but
yeah.
I really like it. And then number 1 is the newest one.
Hell yeah,
Transformers 1, which I fucking loved.
Transformers 1.
Absolutely loved, Brand. And I was just, it so shocked me on how good that movie is. Don't know if you want to like get into it, but if you just...
Yeah, no, let's get into it, man. It's time.
Yeah, go see Transformers 1.
Yeah, Transformers 1 is fantastic. It just came out today, which is September 19th. In case you're watching this on a different day. But coming out of last night and having watched Transformers, Michael Bay, I was unsure how I felt about Transformers as a whole, because unlike you, I was never really into Transformers as a kid. Never watched the animated cartoon. I played with G.I. Joes. I wasn't a Transformer guy, so I was like, there's a good chance that I just can't bite into this movie. And I was wrong. I was happily wrong. Like, it is a very enjoyable film. I think it's for everybody. And I was, the twist got me at the end, which we'll definitely talk about when we break it down.
Yes.
But yeah, let's dive into this movie, Jay. Guys, this will be a spoiler review, so we are going to break down the film piece by piece. But if you skip to the end, there will be a spoiler free section where we kind of just give our general thoughts about the film after breaking it down together, which of course for me at least, breaking the movie down definitely helps me, digest my feelings about the movie. And by afterwards, I'm like ready to write a review. I'm ready to, like solidify kind of how I felt about it, so that's kind of why we do this, in case you're curious, guys. But yeah, so Transformers 1 animated with a crazy cast.
Absolutely
let's take a little
insane.
second and talk about the crazy, insane cast this movie has, Jordan.
Because you got some heavy hitters. You got Chris Hemsworth playing Pax. You got Brian T. Henry playing D16. You got our queen herself, Scarlett Johansson, playing...
I can't remember her name.
Alita.
Yeah.
You got Keegan-Michael Key, who stole the show.
Amazing.
Absolutely amazing as B-127.
Yes.
Steve Buscemi as Starscream. You got Lawrence Fishburne as Alpha Trion. John Hamm as Sentinel Prime. You got some heavy hitters for sure. Yep. And as you said before we started, like off air, I love how like they just all made the characters their own, and they didn't just do their voice.
Yeah.
Like you didn't.
It was hard to tell for some of them.
For sure.
It was not, that it was this actor in general. They did a good job of playing a character and not playing themselves. Yeah, that was awesome. I love that. I feel like Chris Hemsworth was the only one that I could distinctly tell, at least at first, that it was him. But throughout the movie, when he progresses, his voice almost changes as well as he becomes more a serious guy.
Oh, yeah.
But the movie opens up with Pax and D13, which are two robots who are missing their cog, which a cog in this world, new to me, is something that allows you to transform.
Correct.
I don't know if they ever even talk about that in
the Bay movies. No, they never touch on that in the Bay movies.
So yeah, if you don't have your cog, then basically you're not a transformer, and it kind of not even really meaning to, or it's not as important that it does this, but it kind of becomes a class thing. In this film, where like the lower classes are the ones without cogs, and those are the worker bees of the society or of Cybertron, right? And they're out there mining for Entergon, I think that's why you call it, which is basically the energy that allows Transformers to be Transformers. It's like their lifeblood.
Let the spice flow.
Let the Entergon flow.
Every time they said that, I was just kept thinking Dune 2.
But basically, the movie kind of opens up with Pax learning, Pax Orion or O'Reilly, something like that. Anyway, we just call him Pax. Who very much is Optimus Prime. I feel like that is not a spoiler, and most people, unless you're me and you're kind of dumb, you won't realize who most of the characters are until they become themselves. Because very importantly, this movie is an Optimus Prime
origin story.
Oh. I was gonna say coming of age, but it's a little bit of both. It's his origin story.
It's his journey. It's his journey and
to becoming the badass
for sure. And Cybertron's the origin story of the war and stuff. Well, absolutely.
Yeah. So it kind of opens up with a bit of a lore dump. I always try taking notes throughout a movie just so I can remember important details, and that was like I couldn't write down all the details it gave me at once because it kind of just dumps a bunch on you. Like it dumps. There's this guy named Primus who's a Transformers god, and he at one point had a war with, what is the name of the bad guys? That's another thing. I never wrote down the name of the enemy race because it was hard to pronounce.
It's kind of the same.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember what they're called.
We're gonna, for the sake of the podcast, we'll call them the bad guys.
Let's just call them the bees because they look like green bees.
We might confuse ourselves with bee in the
That's
story.
True.
So we'll call them the bad guys.
The bad guys.
The bad guys had a war with Primus, and basically the Matrix of Leadership, which is so like kids' toy. Very cartoony. I love it though. I'm not complaining at all, but it's just the Matrix of Leadership. No, Michael fucking Bay.
I do love it too because it is like that, but it is kind of weird, not in a bad way, because everything else about this movie, like we'll get into, is like a lot of it is very mature. Yeah, and dark.
It has some serious themes for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
But the Matrix of Leadership was stolen 50 cycles ago, which is apparently a long time ago. I guess cycles are years. They don't really explain it, but it doesn't fucking matter. Anyway, D13 and Pax are low class, not the lowest class. We learned there are lower classes than them, which again we'll get into. But they are the miners. They are mining for this thing called Entergon. Working 2 shifts a day. It's not a good life. They barely have enough time to recharge at night. And then there is the Iacon 5000, which is a big race. And I guess before we move into this part of the movie, I guess this is probably the first 15, 20 minutes of the film.
Yeah.
How are you feeling like going into it? Like right off the bat with the setup and the lore dump and learning about the main guys.
So after the first 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, kind of go before the icon, before like the first exciting thing happens.
So I was kind of how I felt going into it, which I was kind of trying to feel it out because the trailers and stuff, I didn't love the art style. I didn't love the animation, and I was kind of feeling that the first 15 minutes. But the thing that kept drawing me in, and the reason why I was mostly digging it, is because the relationship between Pax and D16. I love the dialogue between those two.
D13, right? Or is it D16?
Well, on Letterboxd, it's D16.
Okay, then as D16, I probably did not write that right. I'm making sure I was right, but I was wrong. Thank you.
I love their relationship. I thought the dialogue was pretty good between them. I enjoyed their friendship.
Who's D16 again?
D16, that was Brian T. Henry.
That's Paperboy?
That's Paperboy.
Paperboy.
All about that Paperboy.
Yeah. Shout out Atlanta.
I was about to say, shout out Atlanta. Watch it if you haven't seen it. Great show.
I agree with you, though. I like their relationship. It was good. Off the bat, it was like, these are two buddies. You know, they're out here doing their thing together. They save someone's life in the...
They got the anime bro fist bump that they all do.
They saved Jazz, which Jazz has very little screen time in this movie.
Very little.
I thought Jazz was like important coming out of the original Transformers because he's one of the main four that hops in there.
Oh yeah, he's an OG.
So this whole time I thought, because I confused D16 and Jazz, so I thought D16 was actually Jazz this whole movie, and that later on played a big key in my confusion, and I actually hope that a lot of people get this confused because it made the twist later pretty damn good for me. But yeah, I'm glad you brought up the animation because there was a point in the beginning of the movie where I was like, I don't know how I feel about this anime. Like the Optimus Prime's mouth, it wasn't working for me.
No, it looked
because it's humanoid.
It's humanoid, and it gave off of weird kitty Saturday morning cartoon vibes.
Yeah, it's like when a dog is talking with like a mouth and the mouth is moving like a human would talk, like one of those movies. I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to just accept that this is how it is. But it didn't bother me after that.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
No, and I wouldn't even say it was a negative. I was just feeling it out. But the relationship between the two leads were helping me. I thought the comedy hit. So overall, I was digging the first 15 minutes. I wasn't heavily like invested yet, but I was definitely invested. Like I was on for the ride. And then you're alluding to what is it called?
The Icon 5000.
Icon 5000. And as soon as that giant, like you said, just spectacle of a race that happens.
Yeah.
Then I was like, okay, this is gonna be dope. Like if nothing else, the action itself is gonna be. If it's like this, the whole movie is gonna be really good.
So as these cogless, basically Transformers without the ability to transform, they're pretty much useless in the transforming cog society, which is the upper class in this world, right?
Yes.
So the Transformers, people with cogs, have this huge race, and the miners are just not invited. But Pax, aka Prime, future Optimus Prime, and his buddy D16, he's like, let's hop in here, bro. He's like, let's do this. So let's get noticed by Sentinel Prime, who Sentinel Prime is like basically their Optimus Prime at this point. He's the guy they all look up to. He's a part of the Primes, which the Primes are like the top fighters, basically for this.
Basically
for Cybertron,
the Guardians of
Cybertron. Hell yeah. And yeah, the race was a fun scene. That was like a good 20-minute stretch of just like sheer entertainment and
just adrenaline, man.
The animation was solid. The choreography or the
choreography.
Yeah, thank you.
I like what you said first though. Choreography. What you had?
I don't even know. Choreography. Something.
It's late. It's late, guys. We're good.
But after the race, which ends up being rather successful for them, they get pretty noticed out there in this race. But it's not very appreciated by the higher members of society. They get thrown down to the lowest tier of a working class robot, which is like tier 50, and they meet B, who is Bumblebee.
Bumblebee, yes.
Yeah, and is voiced by, I think you said this earlier, but
Keegan-Michael Key.
Fucking amazing, dude.
Absolutely.
Best part of the film for me, for sure.
he never got annoying. And at first I was like, oh, I can kind of see him getting annoying later, and he just never does.
He was the only one I'd say that was closest to playing themselves, but I didn't even mind it really because it was I thought well written and genuine. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and you have a good won't say what it is, but there's a really good Key and Peele joke for all you Key and Peele fans. There's an iconic Key and Peele joke in there, and won't spoil what it is, but keep an ear for it.
Yeah. So the race is pretty much for me. At least it was like just some guiltless fun, or I want to say guiltless, some guilty fun, because it did feel kind of like I'm watching a kids movie. Of course, they're gonna have a race or something.
Of course,
just make this movie as fun as fast as possible, and they took that pretty seriously with it being a physical race. But I was just like, you know what, I'm accepted. Like it's fun, and it does lead to like the next development in the plot. At least
there's some good comedy in there.
Yeah, and again, they do end up finding this guy B. B has some imaginary friends because he's very lonely in this sad life, and one of them happens to have, which the happens here is pretty amazing.
This is my biggest issue with the movie.
Yeah,
is this little scene right here? How they just he knocks off the dude's head.
They kind of just walk into their destiny,
pretty much.
Very, very sporadically.
Absolutely,
it could have been any other way, and that's kind of why looking back on it, I'm like, the race. They could have done something more important with the time the race took place to actually set up some sort of unveiling for his destiny rather than it just being completely happen chance. You know what I'm saying? But they just kind of threw it into a race and just made it as fun as possible, which I can respect because I had a lot of fun with the movie. But then, as you said, your biggest gripe with the film is how they walk into the destiny and finding the map.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because like we said earlier in the film, there was that lore dump right off the bat, and I guess I forgot to mention that Pax, Optimus, he wants to be the one to find the Matrix of Leadership, which was stolen, right? That's like kind of his dream that will never happen because he's just this low-class robot, right? So the map that they find on this random robot in the furnace, essentially, like the garbage waste management system, is a map to the Matrix of Leadership.
Right, the thing that he's been looking for
all
along. And one can still argue that, one can argue, not still, but one can argue that it's well, that's the point because destiny, always finds its way and finds you. So it's not terrible, but it was the one thing in the movie.
But there's so much better ways to make destiny happen.
I know.
Game of Thrones, for instance, and Arya's character, and her whole walking into her destiny.
Oh no, I understand. Really I agree with you. I'm just I can see why people can suspend their disbelief in that. In that scene.
And that's totally fine because it's at the end of the day, this is a kids movie. It's made to be entertaining. And I don't mean kids movie as any sort of disrespect because it's a fun for the whole family movie that does delve into some darker themes, and is fulfilling for anybody to watch, right? But it is there to serve more purpose than being this anything super self-serious.
You see, I would almost argue that it's like Pixar movies that are kid friendly, not for kids.
Okay,
that's what
I think I can agree with you there.
Yeah, because I definitely see
kids will enjoy it, but they're not going to pick up on the deeper themes that the movie can have to offer.
No, definitely not, especially not towards the last act of the film.
So they pretty much from there they pick up onto the trail super quick. Next thing you know, they're on a train and they're headed for the surface, which is supposed to be this super dangerous place. And, going into that, it's they're not prepared for this shit. They could barely survive a race without cogs. How the hell are they going to survive on the surface? And that, for me, that was kind of exciting. I was like, all right, they're going to go up there and they're going to get dicked. They're going to get effed up on the surface.
Mollywop.
Yeah, that was kind of what I was thinking going into it. And they end up picking up along the way Scarlett Johansson's character, which is Alita.
Alita, yes.
Right? And she's already kind of played a little bit of a role in the mining section of the film because she was the manager of PAX and D16. So they all end up on the surface together, and it's pretty cool. I was like the opening to this is the real world,
it's a whole new world.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Transformers edition.
Yeah, and it was cool. It was immediately scary. 2 minutes into it, it's it's beautiful. Okay, what's the shit behind us that's trying to kill us? It keeps you on your toes. And there's really not a lot of downtime in this movie outside of the first 15 minutes. There's
it moves.
No downtime in a what is 100-minute runtime?
150 minutes. It was almost, it's a real, it doesn't feel that way, huh?
So yeah, the next thing you know, they find the resting place for the fallen primes, which is where the map is taking them. Again, the primes are like the super elites, the soldiers, the guardians of the of Cybertron, which have been eliminated, and right now, again, Sentinel is the one
kind of in charge of Cybertron. Yeah, taking care of everybody.
So they're able to revive one of these primes, and he again dumps some lore on us. Which at this point I was okay with it because it actually it was leading to this.
And you get some juicy reveals there.
Yeah, you get some real juice, which is that of course Sentinel
Prime is bad.
Which to me was pretty obvious. I don't know why.
Yeah. No, well for me it was because in Dark of the Moon, he's also bad.
Oh.
He's also a surprise bad guy. So I didn't watch the cartoons much, so I don't know if he's bad in like real Transformers lore, but both adaptations I've seen in movies now, he's bad.
It instantly clicked, I think, during the race when he goes to congratulate him, and his like right hand man is this creepy ass spider character, and he's way too good to be real. I was like, okay, this guy's evil. Like that's the vibe. That was a big light bulb. I feel like it's gonna go off for pretty much everyone who watches the movie. This fucker's bad.
And there's also another. I think even if I didn't know that Sentinel Prime was bad in a previous movie, there is another aspect with that we won't get into that involves D16's character that made me think that I'll say D16's appreciation for Sentinel Prime the entire time. I was like, this is going to definitely lead to this of D16 having this kind of aspect. So
yeah, Sentinel Prime betrayed the Primes in effort to gain total power. He's just one of those classic villains, wanted all the power. And unfortunately for him, though, he's paying for it dearly because he's having to pay the bad guys, as we're calling them, who's just another race of alien-like creatures
with no dialogue, which is why they
have any dialogue.
Make it hard to remember them.
Yeah, they're really not that important.
No,
besides the fact that Sentinel has been paying these motherfuckers with the stuff that Pax and D16 have been mining their whole life, right?
Correct.
So their whole life they've been paying for this motherfucker Sentinel's crimes and his ability to have power. So instantly, Pax and D16 are like, fuck this guy. But more importantly, D16 is like, really? Fuck, like, I want to kill this guy now.
Never meet your heroes. Because that was his hero.
Yeah.
Never meet your heroes.
And all that love for him boiled into just hatred. Which, they say, like, once you love somebody, like, you never go back. You either love or hate them.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was kind of shown pretty clearly here.
Absolutely.
So not only that, but they find out that they were actually born with cogs. And that they were removed by Sentinel, I guess, as a way of just creating the miners, of creating the lower classes.
Just taking away, as I think Pax says when he's giving like his third act speech leading into battle, basically took away their will to choose, because you take away their power, their will to do anything. So just like, oh well, we're too weak to go on the surface, we're too weak to question anything, so it's just so much easier to fall in line to the worker bee life that way. Yeah. Taking away. That's how I took it.
I think that's where most of the themes of this movie really lie is kind of scraping the surface of a little political theme there and talking about how, the government does this in real life. It creates needs to fulfill them.
Absolutely, and we'll get into it, but I think B's joke at the end, his government joke at the end, proves that.
Yeah,
100%.
Great. I was thinking about that too. So yeah, they're pretty frustrated, and this is all in the same scene. By the way, this is like I'd say about halfway through the film. It's a huge turning point.
It's a good 10-minute scene. It's a chunky scene of the movie.
They also get the cogs from the fallen Prime, so they get. And where the cog comes from seems to be rather important. So they're getting these like super powerful energy sources.
I mean the primes, they're like the Mac Daddies of them all.
They're coming from the big boys, and they all level up super quick. It's like when you level up in a video game, except they don't know how to use any of their new moves.
Which was hilarious.
And so the next scene is them basically through trial and error learning how to transform, which, that for me, that was when I was sold into the movie. Like, honestly, the first hour I was all like, I was like, okay, like
it's fine.
This is gonna have to pay off for me in the second half. And as soon as we hit that switch in the mid of the movie, I was like, I'm in. Like, this is fun. Yeah. I'm having a great time. The soundtrack is honestly awesome, which
Absolutely.
I did for some reason it didn't click for me. But halfway into the movie, I was like, wow, I'm digging like the score to this film.
The score is beautiful. It has like an upbeat, like techno, like vibe throughout it, and
I was vibing for sure.
No, same. I saw you in your seat a couple times, like
jamming.
Yeah, I saw you bobbing your head.
I was jamming. And then from there, the movie just does not let up.
No,
it stays great. I think throughout the rest. Next big thing that happens is well, I guess before I kind of speed off here, Jay, how do you feel about like going into this second half of the film?
Second half of the film.
Like where were you at, man? Like, were you already like in love by this point, or?
So by the end, I would say whenever they get the cogs and whenever through, like you said, through trial and error, learn how they transform, and you got my favorite bit in that is where B transforms into the Lamborghini or whatever car, but except the wheels, and his wheels are his hands.
Yeah.
And he's like using his hands. That shit killed me, and that
was funny.
One of my favorite bits of the movie. After the conclusion of that scene and where you see, I guess we can kind of start to get into it, D16's character's head's at the end of that scene where he's just like,
well, you meet Starscream, right?
You do meet Starscream.
Yeah.
You do meet who is the leader of the. Did you write down the leader of their group?
I didn't know what they called their group at that time, but I knew kind of that it would eventually be the Decepticons. So I just kind of mentally was like, all right, this is the Decepticons.
This is the Decepticons.
Which I mainly know Starscream and Soundwave and all those guys from Funko Pops. If I'm being completely honest, the reason fair. I can easily associate those guys is because their Funkos are pretty popular.
Well, Starscream was in the first one.
And he was,
yeah. Soundwave wasn't until the second one. But so by the end of that sequence, like where they meet Starscream and all that, I was hook, line, and sinker. Like I wasn't just enjoying it. I was like, okay, if this entire last act is this, I'm gonna walk out of this movie buzzing. Like and it just never stops from there. It just does this the entire, like from that moment, just does this the entire time. So I was fucking loving it. I really was.
I still have one, I guess not even a complaint. One thing I would have preferred they did differently at this point, but they kept the momentum going. And Steve Buscemi as Starscream, something I didn't know I needed, but
I wanted more of it. Bro.
Man, and it was another one where like I knew it was Buscemi already just because we had checked the cast before, but it didn't sound like completely Steve Buscemi. But he just did a good job at making this seem like a bad guy, you know,
100%.
Because these are pretty much some outlaws. They're not a part of the society of the city.
No, they're pretty much. I take it that they were definitely rebelling against Sentinel.
They knew what was up with Sentinel, and they were, but because they knew what was going on, they were not allowed into the city. Another fight commences here. Again, very little downtime. Very little down. And if I'm missing anything, Jay, please chime in. But what I had written next was that the big fight starts essentially with the Sentinel's troops swarming down and capturing D13 and B at this point. They swarm the Starscream's like base essentially, right, and capture everybody. And it's not a long fight, but you get a good like 10-minute fight there.
Oh yeah.
Which I guess for me, I feel like it sounds so silly saying it was too action packed, but like I would have liked some other substance at this point. Other than going right into another fight scene.
I can understand
before the big, like fourth act, which is completely all action almost.
Oh yeah.
I would have liked a little bit more substance with the characters who I was really enjoying. I was really vibing with them at this point, but they kind of choose to just shuffle it along.
Oh, for sure. The only thing that I will add, and it's nothing like a scene that we've missed talking about, but it's just like a little detail. I loved when the Starscream's rebellious group and before they get that action sequence takes place and they get taken and whatever. I loved how D16's demeanor completely changes in that scene, and you can see all of the rebellious guys being like, we have been waiting for somebody like that. Yeah. Just somebody that is just, if you allow yourself, and this is just, anybody can relate to this, in my opinion, if you just allow yourself to give in to, not to quote Yoda, but give in to the hate and get into just your anger.
Yeah.
Hate and anger can do horrible things to a person. But some people need that. Some people don't want to make that decision for themselves. So they look for a guy and they go, that's it. So I don't have to make the decisions. He's going to lead us. And that's how I took, like, I was like, this is going to be his crew. Like,
I'm only starting to laugh over here just because this whole, for me, I was still thinking this was Jazz.
That's so funny.
Whole time. I was
so
like,
great.
I was like, man, Jazz is like really going off the deep end here. I was like, does Jazz become
Is he okay?
Is he become a Decepticon? Like, what? I didn't know that, you know? So yeah, for those who know the story, you're probably thinking I'm an idiot. If you don't know the story, then you're in for a surprise.
I will say, just because you had brought it up again, so it kind of gave me like knowing what was happening. I honestly envy you because not only was it a great reveal at the end, which we'll get to, but when the twist happens, but I had anxiety the whole time. Like whenever the movie had me in its hooks, I was like, I don't want them to not be friends anymore, and I just like a overwhelmingly anxiety because I knew what was coming and what was it leading to.
I see. Yeah. So D13 is hellbent on destroying
for
Sentinel,
sure.
just like this is his game. Pax's plan is to show everyone the truth behind Sentinel and get everyone to turn on him together. You know, and that goal. Well, I guess you could say both their goals are accomplished because Pax is able to, who at this point is looking a lot more like Optimus Prime. You know, he's got his big armor on. He's transforming. They quickly figure out how to transform. It is nature to them, so it makes sense that there's no training arc there. But I guess that's something that we could have had if you wanted to make the runtime a little bit longer. Give them some more training time because they level up quick.
They really level up. Very quick, but I will say the shot where they all four, they're in that chase scene and all four of them transform for the first time.
Yeah, it was exciting.
Oh,
even as not a huge Transformers
beautiful
guy,
shot.
I was just like, yeah.
Oh yeah,
like Michael fucking Bay.
Yeah,
that's kind of how I was feeling. So without divulging all the crazy action-packed nonsense that goes on at this scene, essentially, D16 ends up getting freed. Pax is successful in his ability to free his friends. At that point, simultaneously, I think Alita helps get the broadcast up to everybody of all of their kind of like recorded shots of Sentinel.
Yes.
Basically giving away himself, you know, and explaining that what he's been doing. He's a freaking asshole.
And he's a freaking asshole, and this is what he's done.
So everyone's getting turned against Sentinel. You know, Prime's plan is working, but at the same time, there's no stopping D16.
He's too far gone at this point.
He's too far gone, and he, in his attempt to kill Sentinel, for me the best moment of the movie.
It is the best moment.
Is Prime sacrificing himself, getting shot. They have this Sam and Frodo moment where 16 is holding his hand. And Prime is, you know, over this huge hole, which leads mysteriously somewhere. We'll talk about that. But he's like, I'm not saving you anymore. He lets him go.
And his eyes turn red.
Is that when they turn red?
They turn red at that moment.
All right. I couldn't pinpoint exactly.
I got when his eyes turn red, I got goosebumps, bro.
He let his buddy go, he was straight dark side. Killing children, Anakin at that point. Dude, you know, he was off the deep end.
And when that switch happens, dude, when Pax jumps in front of Sentinel and gets shot, the use of silence, like my heart, dude. Like I was trying so hard not to get choked up.
And
I really was.
The silence breaks into this beautiful song with just a gorgeous orchestra
as he's
song.
Like falling.
As Pax is falling into this hole. And D16 declares himself as Megatron.
Yes.
Which for me was like, what? Jazz is Megatron? Like, holy shit. It's like, what the fuck? And at that point, I think I leaned over to you and I was like.
You did. You asked me.
I was like, wait.
What the fuck is happening?
Jazz is Megatron? And you're like, no.
He was Megatron the whole time. Like, Jazz was the guy that they saved at the beginning of the movie.
I was like, fuck, dude. Like.
As genuine as I can come off with all my heart and soul, I hope there are more people like that.
I do too.
I really hope that more people like
I think I feel like I experienced what a lot of children will experience watching this movie.
That's a good point.
Who don't read The Room. You know what I mean? Like, he's evil.
Well, specific kids that like this will be their first Transformer experience.
Yeah.
This is going to blow their fucking mind.
It blew my mind. I'm not going to lie.
Man.
And what is beautiful, absolutely beautiful about this scene is that Pax becomes Prime in the same moment that 16 becomes Megatron, and it's
again that beautiful orchestra playing, and you got the monologue from both of them going back and forth, and just
honestly, Prime is like Gandalf of the Transformers world. He dies and comes back as
so many times.
Optimus Prime the White, bro. Like
Optimus Prime the White.
I like leveled the fuck up. He's blessed up by Primus, basically Transformer God with the matrix of leadership, and motherfucking Neo comes back.
Fucking Neo, and at this point, Chris Hemsworth is going he is Optimus Prime. Like I'm talking about his voice
vocals
performance
and everything. Yeah,
he is straight up Optimus Prime. There is no more like Chris Hemsworth, which I can't wait for the sequel if they do one. I can't wait to see how.
I would be excited for our next one.
Absolutely.
I'd love to see this cast back together and be in this world. And Prime, fucking 1v4s Megatron, Shockwave, Soundwave, and Starscream,
whoops
right?
Their ass.
Yes. Oh my. With the axe and everything, I was like, sheesh.
Dude, that slow-mo shot where he like that 360 shot where he like throws the axe and then it cuts. It cuts. I don't know if you
Michael fucking Bay.
Dude, Michael fucking Bay. I don't know if you heard me, but I made a note when that happened. I did like I made like a noise. Like dude, like I made like a vocal. It got a vocal reaction out of me.
Became a crow. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, just awesome. And then the movie kind of ends. Optimus Prime wins. Everyone's on his side. Screw Megatron, you're banished. And
but obviously, it's not over.
It's not over.
It's not over.
They have yet to go to Earth and meet Sam.
Well, the war on Cybertron hasn't even, because that wasn't the war. That's
True.
what I can't wait for the sequel. I think the sequel is going to be the actual war on Cybertron that destroys it.
I'm about it. Let's go.
Which is so tragic.
Let's go.
And just something overall about the movie, I have, and we've talked about this about other projects. I have I don't know, maybe because friendship was always such a big part of my life and important to me. I am a sucker for broken friendships and just two people who love each other, and just that love, just something divides them, and it's just so great that it can't be repaired. And the great thing about it is that you see hints of it throughout the entire movie. Even in the comedy aspects of it, where they're just jokingly going back and forth, you see from scene one their differences. From the very beginning, you see their differences, and I just love how they built on that every single time they like argued. Yeah. And leading into that, so that aspect of it, like their friendship itself, I love that aspect of the movie.
Spoiler-free review.
Spoiler-free.
We've made it through the film. I had a great time chatting about it.
Absolutely.
Once you watch it, go back and check it out. We had a lot of fun chatting about that movie. And, yeah, I mean, I guess I just had a great time. It was a really good movie. I'm not exactly sure where I'm going to land with star rating yet. I don't want to assign a star, but just know that... Sticky. I know it's like too soon, I'm gonna digest with that a little bit more, but ultimately, really fun movie, great action sequences, awesome twist at the end. It was awesome to get the origin story of Prime, right?
Absolutely.
And his character, which does not let down. It is as awesome as you'd think a epic, legendary character backstory could be.
100%, and I echo all that, man. I know I haven't officially gave it a star rating, but I'm leaning towards very high. I'm leaning towards like 4.5. I know that's very strong, but I really just have
really strong.
I have that one complaint in the movie, and it's a plot thing. Because it's a spoiler free. It's a convenient plot thing that they stumble on into. Other than that one element, I think the movie is a banger. And going into it, I didn't know how to feel. I thought the trailers were okay. And if you watch the trailers and thought, oh, well, this is just going to be a kiddie Transformers movie, I don't really like the animation style, I'm telling you, fuck all that. Like, go into it with an open mind. The themes are great. It's dark. It's kid friendly, not for kids. I think people of all ages would love it, and it's just a great movie.
Yeah, and as
I really did.
You have a much bigger attachment to Transformers.
I do.
Which if you did give it a 5-star rating, I would not be like, wow, Jordan, you're giving anything 5 stars. Like, no, I would understand, because for me, it is probably close to a 4-star. As someone who's just not even into Transformers, like I really enjoyed it. Like I could see myself watching it again.
Absolutely.
If like a couple, if our friends wanted to go another night to see it, if I had nothing else to do, I'd probably come.
For sure. For sure.
The runtime flew by. I was honestly thinking it was like 90 minutes.
It's fast moving.
Like
man.
I went into the movie thinking the runtime was 100 minutes, and I guess because of that, I just never even thought to look at the time. Never even thought to look at the time, because I had no reason to. It keeps you entertained. It keeps you on your feet. And again, pretty much there's a flip in the halfway through the movie that once that happened, I went from being, just kind of digesting it to really being on my edge of the seat for what's next. Like, where is this story going? And,
Oh, for sure. I think the biggest compliment I can give, and if anything we've talked about will sell you on it, or hopefully this will. It focuses on why there is a shit ton of action, and and there's gorgeous. It's, to me, it's character and character development, and the relationship between the characters came first, and I think it showed by the end of the movie. I really do think it showed. So this world and lore was handled with care, and if you aren't a Transformers movie, give it a shot. Transformers. If you aren't a fan of Transformers, I would say give it a shot. If you do love Transformers, what the fuck are you doing watching? Like, go see it.
Yeah, it'd be a must see.
It is a must see if you're a Transformers fan.
Facts. And then, like, outside of the story, voice acting, incredible cast, top tier stuff.
Score,
beautiful. Awesome. I know we said at the beginning, going into it, we weren't huge fans of the animation style. And that might be something that turns off potential viewers. And I'd say, don't worry about it. Go into it. I want more animated movies like this. I want more non-Disney, non-Pixar animated big budget films. Like, I think that is what we need right now, especially with anime becoming more and more popular. Like, let's close the gap between big budget live action and big budget animation. Let's get more stories like this, because you can tell so much more with animation.
You can.
And it wasn't a problem. Like, it's still not my favorite animation style, but by the end of it, wasn't thinking about it. I was in the movie.
Same.
But maybe it was like for the first 30 minutes, something that kept me from really getting invested was, it was like, I'm not sure if I'm in love with the animation style.
The faces are weird. It is. It takes some getting used to.
But once the story starts really getting into the meat, you're like, okay, screw it. I don't care anymore. It's good enough. So yeah, I have technically no complaints about the movie in the technical aspects. I know I've already spoken about the few things I don't like. We both agreed on some of the script not being the best earlier in the film.
There's some conveniences there for sure.
Yeah, some very happen chance into destiny sort of things that really happen in these sorts of movies. And to me, that's the one part of the movie that doesn't take itself as seriously and makes me. I had to remind myself that this is a movie for all ages, because it doesn't need to matter that much really. At the end of the day, it's still a very entertaining movie with some great themes and some great character movements, especially in the end.
Oh yeah, but you did make a good point, and I'm not going to get into obviously I'm not going to get into the spoilers of it, but you made a good point in the spoiler section where you referenced the race that happens. I'll just say there's a race that happens. Mm-hmm. There is something they could have did something else there. I'll just say that. Yeah. Because I've thought about it this whole time as you said that, and it really doesn't lead to much. It just does. I think there's some character stuff it does for PAX and D16, but you could have did that with really anything else.
Yeah, it's like I said, I think they just wanted to start having fun, and it's a fun movie, and it really is. I don't want to say action-packed, but it's, there's not a lot of downtime in this movie, and I think they were trying to get there faster than they needed to. And, it's an our time sort of thing, man. People want, we're in the TikTok era. Everybody wants content,
oh, yeah.
And I feel like that kind of pushes creators into those sort of decisions sometimes. So I guess you gotta kind of just think about the time we're in, when it comes to those sort of decisions being made.
No, I get that.
But it did not really detract from my experience of the film as a whole. Again, by the halfway point, I was I was in it.
Locked
I was in
in.
it to win it, yeah.
And we talked about the voice cast in depth in the spoiler review, but if you skip that, if you haven't seen the movie yet, I just wanted to shout out one more time Keegan-Michael Key as B.
Yes.
Just steals every fucking scene he's in. He's so good.
The humor of the film, for sure. It's at the core of the humor of the film is him.
Oh, absolutely. He has a scene where there's a Key and Peele joke, and he runs away when everybody's looking at danger, and he just he's in the background, and you just see him go. And he just starts running away. That shit was awesome, and I just wanted to shout out Keegan-Michael Key because he really was amazing in it.
Definitely. Yeah, everyone was. I had a great time with them. I'm really hoping they come back for the next one.
Same.
Really, really do hope that. But yeah, Jay, it's been fun talking about Transformers.
Absolutely. I had a great time.
What's coming out next week?
Is next week the 27th?
Is it
Megalopolis?
Is it Megalopolis?
It is Megalopolis next week.
My God.
I'm
excited.
Projected right now to make $3 million.
Really?
I'm not even kidding.
That's the projection?
That's the projections right now.
Why?
Tickets it hasn't been able to be sold. It wasn't even the distributor of it is Lionsgate, but I'm not even kidding. Francis Ford Coppola's estate had to pay them to put out the movie.
Oh my! I cannot wait for this. I'm so excited.
Next week, whether I cannot guarantee we'll both like the movie, but it is going to be a conversation.
You know what I think is going to happen is I think the movie is going to be so outrageous that the internet loves it. And everyone's gonna fucking go see it, like Terrifier. Like a Terrifier situation where it shouldn't be this popular, but it becomes popular out of its sheer outrageousness.
Just craziness. I hope so.
I hope for Francis Ford Coppola's career's sake, I really do hope so, and I hope it's a movie worth talking about. Whether it's amazing or shit, I don't care. I just want a movie that's gonna be like, wow. Let's talk about this.
That's why I said I think regardless whether we like it or not, I think we're gonna have a great time talking about it.
Yeah, and I hope that conversation gets people to the theater to see it.
For sure.
It's got a huge cast. I feel like that alone should be enough to sell it, man. Forget if it's a crazy, weird ass movie. Just
the huge cast and Francis Ford Coppola.
Yeah,
those two things alone.
Come on, Lionsgate, get your shit together. What the fuck?
Get your shit together. But it's so funny because whenever they showed it at, I think it was either Cannes or TIFF. It was Cannes.
It was Cannes.
I remember the just critics coming out of it going, I don't know how the fuck they're going to market that.
Yeah.
I remember I don't know, which is why it took him so long to find a distributor. But I am glad, again, I'm not shit talking it. I am looking forward to it. It's Francis Ford Coppola. Of course I am. And on Francis Ford Coppola, I am going to, I've already seen them, but I'm going to watch The Godfather.
Okay.
I'm going to watch the Godfather trilogy.
I do own the Blu-rays, so.
Yeah. Ooh, do you really?
Yeah. But I might want to watch them too. So we might have to share.
I'm cool with sharing with you.
Okay.
We share other things.
Come sit in my lap. We'll watch it. Eat popcorn.
The same bowl.
Throw blankets. Everything.
We can even film it and throw it on our Patreon page.
Yeah. So you do the same thing, guys. Let's watch some Francis Ford Coppola movies this week and reconvene.
Oh, yes, sir.
Next week on the 5th episode of the Film Informers podcast.
Absolutely. Thanks for watching. This was honestly my favorite episode to film because it's a franchise that is near and dear to my heart and my childhood. And one more thing about Transformers 1, post-credit scene and mid-credit scene. If you want to stay for it, they're there.
Jordan loves those.
They are important.
I stay for him. Normally I leave, but I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to complain. Jordan wants to stay here.
And I'm gonna do it, and we hold hands the entire time. And the thing is if it would have been a joke at the end, I would have been mad. I really would have been mad. But is it a scene that could have absolutely been tacked on at the end of the film? Yes. But it is an important end credit scene. I'm not gonna say it's not. It does set up some stuff. So
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But
peace out, guys.
You have a good one.